Okay, something in a million years I never thought was going to happen has happened for me. I reached 300,000 subscribers on YouTube this past week. I started my YouTube channel a really, really long time ago talking about permaculture design, which is a system for creating regenerative relationships between people and the planet and people and each other, right? How do we create not only sustainable communities, but regenerative ones, ones where we have earth care, people care, and fair share? Right, those are the three permaculture ethics. Permaculture was created in the 1970s by Bill Mollison and David Holmgren, and it was radically political from the beginning. And I think that my participation in permaculture has only served to radicalize me further in the last 25 plus years that I've been practicing it. You can't live in an extractive capitalist system believing in earth care, people care, and fair share, which was originally called set limits to consumption, without becoming pretty radical in comparison to the rest of society. So for my 300,000 thank you video, instead of doing a Q&A, I was tempted to try something that an account that I follow on YouTube and really like, Min Wolden, who is a Belgian spinner and knitter, did for her 10K video. She said, could you just drop your assumptions about me in the comments and I'll pick some and I will respond to them. How well do y'all know me? What are your preconceived notions, and do they match up with who I am as a real person? I thought, well, that sounds interesting. That's an interesting way to approach that. That's not your standard Q&A. So that's what I did. I asked folks if they could share their assumptions about me, and I will pick several and respond to them. Probably a mix of some of the ones that have the most upvotes, and then I'll pick some at random. Before I get to y'all's assumptions, I got several folks today who asked me what I'm knitting in all of my videos. It is the halibut sweater. It's the cardigan version of it. Can see here. I'm knitting it for my eldest kid who's a fish and wildlife major, which is why halibuts. I did some adjustments to the pattern to use smaller yarn, and also I did some additional embellishments. It's a little bit more complicated. This is Cascade 220 yarn, and I have just about finished. I'm doing the second sleeve, and then I will need to do the cutting of the steek, which is where you cut up the front and then add a button band and then buttons so it can be a cardigan that closes. Yes, a steeked sweater is one where you knit it in the round and then you take a pair of scissors and you cut it up the front to make it a cardigan. And that's really scary, but it's also really, really fun. Once you've done it a couple of times, it becomes less scary and more like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Why have I not done all my cardigans like this forever? Don't worry, I will show you what it looks like when it's all done and blocked and looking good. But let me get to your assumptions now. Okay, Dob Views got the most upvotes, and they said, my assumption is that you are burning the candle at both ends. Yes, I would say that's accurate. I do not like to be idle. I like to be very, very busy. We could talk about whether it's a little pathological that I need to be productive all of the time, but you know, we're not unpacking my childhood trauma here. I like to be busy. If I have downtime, I will find something to do. It's probably why I'm a knitter and a spinner and a weaver. I cannot sit still. I can't just sit and read a book. I pretty much listen to an audiobook and do something else active. I did say in a recent video that I am working like 70 or 80 hours a week right now on my YouTube channel because I don't have any employees. I do all of the researching, filming, editing, and posting and responding to comments all by myself across all the social media platforms. And I appreciate very much your thoughtful comment that maybe I should take 3 or 4 days worth of news and try and film just a few days a week and have more downtime. I'm working on that. My business is running me. I am not running my business right now. And I think it's going to be an adjustment period. Maybe I need to hire an editor or a personal assistant to help me because I think I am doing the work of 2 or 3 people by myself while also trying to, I still have one kid that I'm homeschooling and I'm trying to take care of the house and manage other things. Also like I have my garden that I still have to manage and all of the activism that I do as well. Okay, next was I really don't want a name, who said, my assumption is that if your order was wrong at a restaurant, you wouldn't say anything, but if someone else's was, you would. Yes, I think that's entirely accurate. My grandparents had a diner and my mom was a waitress in that diner growing up, and she always taught me to be very mindful and respectful of restaurant staff and understand how hard they work and not to give them a hard time. So I'm always super, super nice. And yeah, if something comes to the table and it's not perfect, I'll just roll with it. We don't eat out we very rarely eat out. I should just say that. Partially because for so many years we couldn't afford to, but also because I really love to cook. Okay, the next one is from Barb, who says, my assumption is that you were a straight A student in high school. No, I was not. I got a B in pre-calculus. I got a B- in 9th grade art. And one term I got a B in Latin, but I did have good grades, yes. I also got 5s on all my AP exams. I'm just gonna brag about that a little bit. The next one is, I am assuming you're a vegan. No, I am not a vegan. In fact, I have vegans who have a lot of beef with me in my comments, a lot. We have raised turkeys for the table. You should go watch some of my videos about raising turkeys in our backyard in Portland, Oregon. I'm definitely an omnivore, although I am very committed to being an ethical omnivore. And that means that I don't buy factory farmed meat. I don't buy factory farmed dairy. We have chickens and ducks for our own eggs. I also have bees, so I have honey from my bees. So I'm definitely not a vegan. If someone else is vegan and that is their personal dietary preference and or ethical choice, that is awesome. I will support them. And when we have vegan friends and family who come over to eat, I absolutely am going to accommodate. We ate very, very little meat for many, many, many years. And even right now, the meat that we do eat is we purchase half a cow from a local farmer. This year, we also purchased half a lamb. Sometimes we purchase half a hog. But it's all from local farmers that I know and trust. I know the animals lived organic, free range. They were, pastured and had a good life. That's really, really important to me. Part of permaculture, earth care, is understanding that we have an obligation to treat our livestock humanely. The next one is, I assumed that you were a Portland native and was surprised to learn that you weren't. No, I was an Air Force brat. So I've lived all over, including Germany. The longest place we were stationed was in San Antonio, Texas. We were there for almost 7 years. So I sort of consider my childhood to be primarily in Tucson and San Antonio. And then I went to high school in Ohio. We moved out here more than 20 years ago because my husband is from Southwest Washington. And we moved here for him to go to graduate school and because he wanted to be back on the West Coast. We were living in St. Louis, Missouri at the time. Okay, next is from Linda, who says, my assumption is that you would make a great next door neighbor. You can ask my next door neighbors that. I've had the same neighbors on either side of me since we bought our house. And I think it's a little bit of a mixed bag because I'm that weird permaculture lady who has plants hanging over the fence line and has, turkeys that sometimes escape my yard and has, beehives in the back garden. But I do have to say my neighbors this way, they are like family. The folks who live next door, they're basically like my kids' aunt and uncle. My neighbors on the other side are really awesome, kind folks. And their kids, who are now adults, are the same age as my eldest kids, and they would climb the fence and hang out in the backyard and eat raspberries with my kids when they were little. But I'm definitely not everybody's cup of tea. I'm a little bit weird. I'm definitely the eccentric lady on my street, I think. I got several comments to this effect across several platforms, which is my assumption is that you should run for political office. And I know I've said this before, I am the last person who should be in political office. I do not know how to play the games that politicians need to play in order to be effective at advocating for their constituents. I just think that that is probably not my skill set. I am too idealistic and I would be too disheartened with the amount of corruption that we have in politics on any level. I'm happy to support politicians and their campaigns, absolutely, but I just think that I would not be productive and collaborative. Definitely not like in Congress. No, I could not sit in a hearing with Jim Jordan and Marjorie Taylor Greene and not absolutely lose my shit. I don't know how my congresswoman does it. I don't know because I could not do it. Okay, this assumption is from Blue Sky. I assume that you were a band nerd. Yes, I was. I played French horn and mellophone in a marching band. I also did jazz band. I've also played the bassoon. I did all of the band things. I love music. None of my children had the same kind of passion for music that I did, and that always kind of bummed me out. We had a piano for several years. I have guitars. I have a hammered dulcimer. I play hammered dulcimer. Not that I've had any time to touch it in quite a while. But I'm very musical. I love music. I sing. My kids are much more visual artists and also like to write fiction. So that's sort of been their creative outlet. I'm much more music and then fiber arts. Okay, I'm gonna leave that there and then I'm gonna come back for part 2 so that I can get through a few more of these. I really appreciate all of y'all's thoughts. And it's really awesome to read through the thousands of comments and see that so many of them are just like, congrats on 300K. I really appreciate your content. Keep going. Thank you. That means more to me than I can in any way adequately express. So thank you. Okay, come back for part 2. Okay, part 2 of answering your assumptions about me as my 300,000 YouTube subscriber thank you video. My voice is getting a little bit scratchy, so bear with me. Also, I got some feedback earlier today that my new microphone is a little bit quiet, that the sound quality is clearer, but it's quiet. So I appreciate y'all letting me have a learning curve. Technology is something that does not come naturally to me. Like plants, yes. Parenting, I'm good at that. Technology, I'm gonna ride the struggle bus. So I bought these microphones. Here, hang on. I dropped some change on some good microphones, hoping that it would improve the sound quality of my videos. And it's a little bit quiet still. So thank you for bearing with me and giving me a couple of days to do some troubleshooting and figure out how I can improve the experience for y'all so that you can hear me. Also, thank you again for getting me to 300,000 subscribers on YouTube. That completely blows my mind. Before the election, I had 50,000 subscribers. So it has been a huge, rapid expansion of my business and my viewership. I get 10 times as many views as I got just a couple of months ago. I'm not going to lie, it's very overwhelming. I get recognized in public everywhere that I go. I mean, literally everywhere. My husband and I were out for our anniversary dinner and we got recognized. I go for a walk to the park and I get recognized. I get recognized at the grocery store. It happens everywhere. And in real life, I'm fairly introverted and I'm not quite as assertive as I seem online, right? I kind of put on my roller derby referee confidence when I'm filming. And in real life, I am a little bit more mild-mannered and I don't necessarily always do well being the center of attention or being being the focus of anybody's conversation. So I appreciate when folks come and say hi to me in public. If I'm weird, it's me, it's not you. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. And I love to connect with people, especially out and about around Portland. Just please understand it's very new for me and it's a lot bit overwhelming. Okay, the next assumption is, my assumption is that you have an advanced degree. No, I do not. I have a Bachelor of Arts in biology and my college didn't have minors, but I have kind of like the equivalent of a minor in elementary education. I did not go to graduate school. I helped put my husband through multiple rounds of grad school himself. He has multiple master's degrees. I really thought I was going to go back to grad school and get my master's of landscape architecture. That's really what I wanted to be doing this year and next year. But instead, just like you, I'm fighting fascism. So I have put that dream on hold for now. Being a permaculture person, and I want to think about how human beings interface with nature, how we connect with nature, how we build community spaces, third spaces where we can gather and build relationships and support each other. Landscape architecture, for me, is a career path that I would love to be able to pursue after all of this nonsense is over. Okay, next assumption. I gotta put my glasses on. The font's a little bit tiny. It's from Kate. Thank you, Kate. You said, my assumption is that you are a mom who changed the nature of her interest in gardening to address the national crisis of fascism rising. Yes, that's exactly right. I don't want to have to be talking about the things that I'm talking about now. I don't just love gardening. I love every element of permaculture design, right? So I would love to be able to lend my skills and my life to working on creating regenerative communities of people that have a healthy relationship with the planet, a healing relationship with the planet, and where we can really foster community support and connection and have a better quality of life for everybody in America and wherever you may live. But I don't get to really work on that goal until we stop fascism first. So I know I've gotten some criticism for like, go back to gardening, or why aren't you doing videos where you're spinning yarn and knitting things like you did before? Or why can't you talk more about parenting like you did before? I very much believe parenting is part of a lack of parenting skills is part of why we're in this mess now for us as a country, our view of children, how we treat children. But I also believe very much that how we raise children, our parenting, the relationships that we have with kids is crucial to having a sustainable society, to having a regenerative society. So I do talk a lot about parenting, but right now in this moment, I kind of have to put those other subjects on hold because America is on fire, right? We are going through a crucible. Things here are really, we are in a crisis, and it feels to me like I have an obligation to use my platform to advocate for democracy, to try and protect vulnerable people. My platform was always about trying to protect vulnerable people and vulnerable environments and work toward a more just and sustainable way of life. And I feel like the content that I'm making now is a continuation of that mindset, right? I'm still upholding my 3 ethics of permaculture, earth care, people care, and fair share. I don't like having to make this kind of content. It's really stressful. I wish I could be doing other things. I do have some measure of resentment that I am not able to do the things I want to do with the few precious years that I have. I am not thrilled about it. And I know none of y'all are as well. None of us want to be doing this, but we don't get to choose the time that we're born into. We did not choose this difficult period that we are living in now, but that doesn't mean that we get to just like dip out or opt out of it. And I think that I would be violating my ethics if I didn't use the platform that I have to try and do good, right? So that's why I'm making the kind of content I am now. I did not expect it to blow up. I did not expect my platform to resonate with so many people, my message to resonate with so many people. So I'm really grateful for that. And I appreciate y'all. Someone asked me recently, what are you going to do when all of this is over? How are you going to keep all of your audience? And I said, well, I think that we will be spending many, many years working to repair the harm that was done now, and that is good and worthwhile content to cover. That's really important for us to be having those conversations and doing that kind of good work. So I envision that I will be doing much more permaculture content in years to come, and it will be much more of a regenerative aspect. It will be much more about how do we get restoration? How do we have accountability and justice and create a better world? Instead of this flashpoint of, this particular crisis that we're in now, of how do we stop the harm that we're experiencing so we can work toward those greater goals. That was a really, really long answer to your assumption. So thanks for letting me have the time to do that. Leslie Wolf, I love this assumption. You said, I assume that you have a very egalitarian marriage with no tolerance for the concept of women's work or men's work. Yes, that's very true. My husband and I come from a very conservative religious background, Presbyterian Church in America. And one of the things that I always was button heads with was this idea of a complementarian marriage, right? I am not a particularly feminine person. I'm not a submissive person, even though I like a lot of traditionally feminine roles and I consider myself a homemaker. We have a very egalitarian marriage and I make a lot of the decisions. I have a husband who's very much more go with the flow than I am. He loves to do the dishes. He has always been an extremely involved parent. We view it as a partnership. We both live in this house. We both had these children. Therefore, we both take care of the house and the children. And now that the kids are older, it's also their job to help take care of the house where they, live and enjoy life. I would also say that while my husband and I have some shared interests, we both like playing board games. We both really like to read. We're both big foodies. We both love the outdoors. That we are still two very unique, separate individuals, and we have separate interests and passions as well. We're not codependent by any means. I did roller derby officiating for years and years. He loves to play magic. He has his magic club and he plays every week. We are supportive of each other's hobbies and interests, however. He is 100% supportive of all of this garden craziness that is going on our property. It's definitely not his passion, but he enjoys supporting me in mine, and I enjoy supporting him in his. So yeah, there's a reason we've been married for 24 years. Not that it's all been smooth sailing. Anybody who's been married for more than 2 decades and tries to tell you that it's all smooth sailing and wonderful and it's never difficult, they're not telling you the truth, but that doesn't mean it's not worthwhile. Okay, the next assumption is in high school, you were the quiet kid that always stuck up for everyone. No, I was an asshole in high school. I was not my best self when I was 16, 17. I am 46 now, and I have spent many years deconstructing from my childhood. I have spent many years growing emotionally and learning to be a much better person than I used to be. And I just want to say, I hope nobody judges me for who I was in high school or even college, especially maybe college, and that I will likewise not judge you for previous iterations of yourself. We are all on a journey and we're all working on improving ourselves, or we should be. We should all be growing and developing and shedding those previous versions and working to become something better. This will be the last one. My assumption is that you have a homemade blend of loose leaf tea you cultivated in your garden, as well as herbs for drying somewhere as we speak. I do have herbs drying somewhere as we speak, but I am a diehard coffee drinker. My kids are tea drinkers, and I'm much more very strong, very dark coffee. I do grow things like mint and chamomile that I will dry and use in tea, though. I will leave it there. There were thousands of other assumptions. Thank you guys for helping me get to 300,000 subscribers. Again, I'm completely overwhelmed and honored. I take this platform very, very seriously, and I take the responsibility of doing right by y'all extremely seriously. Thank you for extending that trust to me and letting me be a very imperfect person, and for all of your support. Appreciate you all.